أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يوصي نعمه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسخر ميدان عرضه ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن جنحوا للسلم فاجنح لها وتوكل على الله إنه هو السميع العليم صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we had said, that on the nights which are special occasions, for example, for tonight, even though it was last night, the lecture is today, on the 15th of Ramadan is a special occasion. On the 15th of Ramadan, the second nur of Wilayah descended upon this earth, and tonight is when Imam Hasan alayhi salam came into the household of Lady Zahra salawatullah alayha. And as I've done with all my lectures, when it comes to personalities, inshallah we'll be looking at an aspect of the life of Imam Hasan alayhi salam. And the aspect of his life that I want to look at today is the treaty that Imam Hasan alayhi salam had with Muawiyah lanatullah alayhi. What were the circumstances? Why did Imam Hasan alayhi salam even have this type of treaty? And as we've discussed many times before, the religious aspect of Imam Hasan alayhi salam's life, by looking at his morals, by looking at his kindness, his charity, his piety. Tonight I want to look at the political aspect of his life to see what morals we can derive from that aspect of his life. Because Imam Hasan alayhi salam, many people do not know this, but for at the very least 6 months, from when Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was martyred to when for 6 months, at the very least, Imam Hasan alayhi salam had control of the hukuma. So tonight, like I said, I want to look at that political aspect of his life and see what morals we can derive from that aspect. In doing so, we need to look at the events that occurred after the shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and we will look at and analyze firstly the condition of the people after Imam Ali alayhi salam shahadat. Secondly, I want to look at who was Khalifa after Imam Ali alayhi salam. This is a point that a lot of people overlook. Who was the rightful Khalifa right after the Shahadat of Imam Ali alayhi salam? Thirdly, we will look at the state of Muawiyah bin Abu Sufyan alayhi in Sham and the propaganda he was spreading against Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Fourthly, what type of people did Imam Hasan alayhi salam have on his side? Fifthly, what caused Imam Hasan to make that peace treaty with Muawiyah alayhi? And sixth, what were the terms of that treaty? And finally, what were the consequences of that treaty? Imam Hasan alayhi salam's life, when you ask the scholars what defines Imam Hasan alayhi salam's life, what separates him, or one of the most defining moments of his life, they will tell you that one of the most defining moments of Imam Hasan alayhi salam's life, which a lot of Shias too have misunderstood, is this peace treaty with Muawiyah alayhi. So let's look at these conditions and let's look at these points in this lecture and see what kind of morals did Imam Hasan alayhi salam have in the political sphere of his life? Because in a lot of these Islamic countries, you have politicians. Shia countries, you have Shia politicians. Sunni countries, you have Sunni politicians. Whatever the case is, in the Islamic countries, you also have politicians. If you have politicians, what kind of politicians are they? Are they politicians, or are they trying to rule the way the Holy Prophet ruled? Are they trying to rule the way Amir al-Mu'mineen ruled? Are they trying to rule the way Imam Hasan al-Islam ruled? Or no? Are they trying to rule the way others have ruled? This is what we need to look at. So as for the condition of the people after Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam shahadat, history states that there was a mixed reaction. The Khawarij and Muawiyah were happy that Imam Ali alayhi salam was gone. The Shias who believed him to be an Imam and the rest of the Muslims who only believed him to be a Khalifa were saddened because they had lost an Imam and a Khalifa respectively. Even at that time, the Shias of Amir al-Mu'mineen believed Imam Ali to be Shias, but the rest of the Muslims, they believed him to be Khalifa, fourth Khalifa. That's what they believed. So the ones that believed him to be fourth Khalifa and the ones that believed him to be the rightful Imam, they were saddened that Imam Ali had left this world. But there were groups that were happy that he had left this world. The Khawarij in particular, and Muawiyah alayhi, they were happy that Imam Ali had left this world. After Imam Ali had been struck by the sword of Ibn Muljam alayhi, he appointed Imam Hasan as the Imam after him. Imam. And after the shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Muslims, they hurried to Imam Hasan and paid homage to him. They gathered in Kufa mosque on the 21st of Ramadan in the year 40 AH, 40 years after Hijrah. Then Imam Hasan he came accompanied by the remainder of the Muhajirin and the Ansar. What did he do? He ascended the pulpit and gave a sermon in which he made 4 points. First, he informed people about his father's struggle, his extreme courage in Islam, his protecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's apostle with his own life in all of the battles that took place. Or not just the battles, even after the battles, even before the battles. 2, he explained to the people his father's zuhud. He explained to the people what kind of a Muslim, what kind of an ascetic his father was, and renouncing the worldly pleasures. 3rd, in his speech, he talked about the sacredness of the night on which his father was shaheed. He says that on that night, Isa ibn Maryam, he ascended to heaven. He says that on that same night, Yashua bin Nun, the trustee, the Khalifa of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, passed away. 4th, he summoned the people to pledge allegiance to himself by introducing himself to the people, in which he implied that there was no one better than him. The Muslims that were there in Kufa, they all paid homage to Imam Hasan alayhi salam. The whole of Iraq, they paid homage to Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Then people from Persia, from Hijaz, from Yemen, they all paid allegiance to Imam Hasan alayhi salam, except for whom? Except for a few people. And who? Muawiyah and the Khawarij. The first thing Imam Hasan alayhi salam did after becoming Khalifa was that he tried to make his state firm. He appointed governors, he employed not just anyone. This was how the Imam, he ruled his governorship. He appointed governors. He employed noble and experienced men from among the just believers. Not just experience, no. They have to be noble. They have to have character. And they can't just have character. No, they have to have experience in what he is choosing them to do. So Imam, the criteria he puts is both of them go together. If you're running for some sort of office where you're in charge of the people, you're in charge of the public, no. Not just righteous, but no, you have to be experienced. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know, you have to have experience in the field that you've been tasked to take care of. What did he do? He gave resolute orders to the military commanders and doubled the salary of the troops. What happened? What did he accomplish through this? Through this, he possessed the hearts of the people and the swords of the people. What happens in a lot of countries? Millionaires, billionaires, just this country, the country that you and I live in, the United States. Look at how much someone who served in the army is living on. Sacrifice so much for the country. Look at how they live, and look at how people who have irked away from the army, look at how they live. There's a stark difference. What did Imam Hasan alayhi salam do? As soon as he became Khalifa, he doubled the salaries of the troops. Why? Because it's these people that are going to be, or that are going to be needed when the time arises. It's these people. So when it was announced that Imam Hasan alayhi salam was elected as Khalifa, Muawiyah, he became pained because he had come to know that Imam Hasan had a great position among the Muslims and a remarkable rank among all the classes of people. Why? He knew that this was the grandson of Rasulullah. He knew that Imam Hasan alayhi salam, amongst the people that existed at that time there after Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Hasan alayhi salam was the most beloved to the Rasulullah. He knew that of all the people that existed at that time, him, Imam Hasan alayhi salam, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they were the closest to Rasulullah, meaning that connection to prophethood was still there. The traditions that were transmitted from the Holy Prophet about Imam Hasan were widespread among the people. They praised Imam Hasan and preferred him to everyone else. So who was Muawiyah in comparison to Imam Hasan? Who was he? He was the son of the enemy of Islam, Abu Sufyan lanatullah alayhi. And he was the son of a prostitute. How could he compete with someone who was part of Ayatul Tathir? How could he compete with someone who was part of the event of Mubahila? He couldn't accuse Imam Hasan of murdering Uthman like he accused Imam Ali alayhi salam. This is one of the reasons that Muawiyah rose up against Amir al-Mu'mineen. He accused him of not bringing the people who murdered Uthman to justice by saying that we were saying that Amir al-Mu'mineen also took part in that. But now he couldn't do the same with Imam Hasan. He couldn't rise up to fight against Imam Hasan with the same claim. So what does he do? He assembles everyone that was loyal to him and calls for a conference in which he says that if something isn't done about Imam Hasan, his kingdom would fall. From this assembly, they came up with a two-pronged attack. One, they had to spread spies in the cities under the rule of Imam Hasan alayhi salam, especially Basra and Kufa. And these spies, they had to inform in detail about the news that was going around in these cities, the intention of the society, the intention of the people, and the extent of the people's loyalty to the family of the Holy Prophet. Not just to Imam Hasan, no. The extension of the people's loyalty to the progeny of the Holy Prophet. In the meantime, they had to spread panic, they had to spread fear and terrorism throughout the land where Imam Hasan alayhi salam was ruling by telling the Muslims that Muawiyah was powerful while Imam Hasan was weak. One. The second aspect of their attack was they had to correspond with leaders, great figures, and prominent persons to bribe them with enormous properties and important offices in the state of Muawiyah if they followed Muawiyah and they deserted Imam Hasan. Bribery. Those were the 2 points. That was the two-pronged attack. Bribery still works today. Bribery still works today. And they carried out the first part quickly by sending 2 spies to Basra and Kufa where they carried out their missions, but were caught and killed. Because of this, Imam Hasan alayhi salam traded a series of letters with Muawiyah, in the last of which Imam tells him to pledge allegiance to him or to prepare for battle. Muawiyah replies, threatening the Imam that he should be careful for his life, lest a mob kills him. What had Muawiyah already done? He had already sent his spies telling them what needed to be done. When Muawiyah realized that his tricks and deceptions were not going to work against Imam Hasan alayhi salam, what did he do? He hurried to declare war against him. And there were 4 reasons. The ulama, they say that there were 4 reasons that he hurried to declare war. One, he had already wrote to the commanders, the chiefs, and the tribes of Iraq and brought them with the money and promises of government posts. He had already bribed the people that needed to be bribed. 1. 2, he came to know that the Iraqi army was divided and did not obey Imam Hasan alayhi salam properly. The state of the army, even though he raised their income. 2. 3, he knew that the Khawarij were spreading corruption in Iraq, so there was instability within Iraq. 4, the loss of Imam Ali alayhi salam was still on people's minds. He writes a letter to all of his governors to get men ready for war against Imam Hasan, and he himself commanded the army of almost 60,000 troops. When the news reached Kufa of Muawiyah's army, the people became terrified. So the Imam, he came out to give a sermon. After the initial sermon, do you know how many people responded to Imam Hasan alayhi salam? One person by the name of Adi bin Hatim, the son of Hatim al-Ta'i. The Imam, he goes out to the battle against Muawiyah with some of his companions and leaves one of his companions in charge and tells him to send people to him. The Imam, he goes with the people that he had, and he leaves someone in charge and he tells them to send soldiers to the Imam. At the end, when everything was said and done, the Imam had under his banner 40,000 soldiers. 40,000. How much did Muawiyah have? 60,000. But what kind of people were these 40,000 men? What kind of people were they? Sheikh Mufid, he says that Imam Hasan's army had 4 groups of people in them. One was the Shia, who were very few in number, and these were the true followers of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Imam Hasan alayhi salam. How do we know that they were few? Because if they were the majority in Iraq, Imam Ali would not have had to accept the arbitration between Muawiyah and Imam Hasan, would not have had to make a peace treaty with Muawiyah. If the Shia were the majority, then there would have been no reason for Imam Ali alayhi salam to accept that arbitration that he accepted when he was still on this earth physically. And if the Shia was the majority, then there was no reason for Imam Hasan alayhi salam to make that peace treaty. 1. The second group of people, the Khawarij. And this group of people, they were also where? In the Battle of Siffin, they were also in Imam Ali alayhi salam's army. They intended to battle against Muawiyah with all means possible. These Khawarij, they had already made a plan that 3 people need to go because they are trouble for Islam. Amir al-Mu'mineen was one of them, Muawiyah was another, and Umaras, he was another, he was the third. Umaras, who was the wazir of Muawiyah alayhi. And the Khawarij, now that Imam Hasan alayhi salam was coming out against Muawiyah, they said, hey, this is someone that we also want to kill. They hurried to fight against Muawiyah because they had come to know that he had forces stronger than those of Imam Hasan alayhi salam. So they only came out to fight against Muawiyah. Why? Because the Khawarij, thought that they just needed to end Muawiyah's life. That's it. They didn't join because they believed that Imam Hasan al-Islam was right. No, they had already made a pact way before that three people needed to leave this world. Three people are bad for Islam, and one of them was Muawiyah. Now they found someone who was fighting against one of these people. That's it. The third group of people were the ambitious, who did not care for spirituality, but all they cared for was the loot from the war. The fourth were the doubters, who were influenced by the Umayyads and doubted about the Prophet's household. Doubters in terms of religion. Sheikh Mufid, he breaks them up into these five categories. And he says that the fifth were the tribal followers, which were the greatest in number. And what did these people do? They only obeyed their leaders. And the majority of these leaders wrote letters to Muawiyah to obey and submit to him in return for money, land, and posts. The leaders of these tribes had already wrote letters. When Muawiyah wrote letters to him, they wrote back letters saying that we will submit to you. If you, in return, we want money, we want land, we want posts in your government. And what did these followers do? They did whatever their tribal leader told them to do. Imam Hasan al-Islam, he sent his cousin Ubaidullah ibn Abbas with 12,000 soldiers to meet Muawiyah at a place called Muskan. While the Imam, he went back to get more soldiers for the army. It is at this place Muawiyah, he took full advantage of his tricks and deceptions against Imam Hasan al-Islam's army. He sent spies who spread rumors that Imam Hasan was secretly agreeing to a peace treaty with Muawiyah, so it was useless to throw your lives away. This is the way that Muawiyah, he played politics. The spies that he sent into the army of Imam Hasan to tell them that Imam Hasan was secretly meeting with Muawiyah, or he was secretly agreeing to a peace treaty, so it was useless to throw your lives away. Secondly, what had he already done? He had already bribed all the prominent personalities. There's a narration that one day Imam Hasan al-Islam was in the palace of Muawiyah, and Abdullah bin Zubair was also there. As soon as the assembly came together, Zubair, he tried to ridicule the Imam to try and make him look insignificant and unworthy of the Caliphate. So what does he say? He says to him, "You're weak in battle, you would not have handed the Caliphate over to Muawiyah. You're weak in battle, that's why you handed the Caliphate over to Muawiyah. You were the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, therefore it was unbecoming of you to do that." That's how he starts. And then Ibn Zubair then prides himself on Imam Hasan al-Islam. He thinks that he's better than Imam Hasan al-Islam. So Imam Hasan al-Islam, he answers him. All he had to say to bring his pride down was, "O Zubair, I am the son of Bint Rasulullah. And as for refuting his proclamation that he was weak and cowardly, I swear to you it was Imam Hasan's answer that shut Abdullah up for good." What does he say? He says, "Oh Abdullah, I didn't make a treaty with Muawiyah because I was weak or cowardly. It was because I had people like you who paid homage to me but then broke it. I didn't make that treaty because of me. I didn't make it because of I was weak. No, I made it. I was forced to make it. Why? Because I had people like you in my army. I had people like you who sided with me, who paid homage to me, who did bayat on my hand, and then you broke it." The same thing his father had done to Amir al-Mu'mineen. He goes on to say, "Oh Abdullah, you did the same thing your father did with Amir al-Mu'mineen." That's when Abdullah became silent. But the majority of personality that defected to Muawiyah, they had already left Imam Hasan. But one of the major personalities that defected to Muawiyah was Ubaidullah ibn Abbas, one of Imam Hasan al-Islam's cousins. The history books state that Ubaidullah, he was given 1,000,000 dirhams in command of an army. And in the middle of the night, Ubaidullah left with about 8,000 soldiers. It was this sellout that caused Imam the most pain. And it was through this, or it was through him, that Imam realized what kind of people he had with him. After buying Ubaidullah, Muawiyah, he sends spies to Madain and spreads those rumors that the new commander in Muskan had been killed and that Imam was making a peace treaty with Muawiyah. When the rumors spread, the Khawarij in his army accused the Imam of being a kafir, and then they attempted to murder the Imam. These are the types of people that the Imam was with. When Imam Hasan al-Islam recognized what type of people he had with him, he realized that he could not defeat Muawiyah with the hypocrites he had with him. So he decided to defeat Muawiyah another way. And it was through this agreement, it was through this treaty. And brothers and sisters, there are some people who don't see the foresight of Imam Hasan al-Islam's treaty and say that he was wrong to make peace with Muawiyah. And there are others who say that if Muawiyah was evil, then why did Imam Hasan al-Islam sign a peace treaty with him? And there are two answers to that question. The first is that just as the Prophet has signed the Hudaybiyah peace treaty with the kuffar of Makkah, it did not mean that those kuffar were right. So here too, just because Imam Hasan al-Islam signed this peace treaty with Muawiyah, it does not mean that Muawiyah was right. Just look at the similarities between the two treaties. You had Iman with Imam Hasan al-Islam's grandfather and Kufr with Muawiyah's father. And you have now Iman with the Prophet's grandson, and you have Kufr with Abu Sufyan's son. The second reason he signed the treaty was so through these conditions, the veils of his hypocrisy and his kufr could be lifted from the eyes of all the people. Imam Hasan alayhi salam knew what kind of a person this was. But Muawiyah, what had he done? He had put wool over the eyes of the general public about what kind of a person he was. And it was through these conditions that Imam Hasan alayhi salam lifted those veils, or lifted the wool. If Imam Hasan alayhi salam could do this, then he had succeeded in protecting Islam. This is what Imam Hasan alayhi salam needed to do to protect Islam. All the Imams, they have a duty to protect Islam. Every Imam, he served that duty in their own way. The Holy Prophet, he brought the religion. Imam's job is to protect the religion. Amir al-Mu'mineen protected the religion. Imam Hasan alayhi salam protected the religion this way. Imam Hussein alayhi salam protected the religion a different way. Imam Zain al-Abidin Imam Hussein alayhi salam protected the religion by giving his life. Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam protected the religion through his du'as. Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam and Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, they protected the religion through what? Through knowledge. Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam, Imam Ali Raza alayhi salam, they protected the religion through what? Through the debates that they had with all the other religions. Every imam's job is to protect the religion. And if you look at the life of each imam, they did what they were supposed to do. Did they do it the same way the previous imam did? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Which brings us, brothers and sisters, to the conditions of this treaty. And Imam Hasan alayhi salam, there were 10 conditions that would disgrace Muawiyah. One, Imam Hasan alayhi salam, he stipulated that Muawiyah should act according to the book and the sunnah of the Holy Prophet in respect to his policy and that of his governors. If he had come to know that Muawiyah had followed the light of the Quran and Islam, would he have made this stipulation? If Muawiyah was already following the sunnah of the Holy Prophet and he was following the Quran from the beginning, do you think Imam Hasan alayhi salam would have made it this stipulation? No. And this he regarded amongst the most important conditions that he imposed on him. Think about these conditions, and why would the Imam impose these conditions? Because that's what's important. That's what's important. 2, he stipulated that the Caliphate after him would return to Imam Hasan alayhi salam and his brother. Imam Hasan, he knew that Muawiyah wanted to turn the Caliphate into a hereditary system. So as a result, the Imam intended to enlighten the people and urge them to fight against Muawiyah if he did that. So what does the Imam stipulate? That the Caliphate is going to return to us. This worldly leadership. 1, 2, 3. He stipulated that Muawiyah would give a general amnesty to everyone that fought against him from the days of Siffin. From the days of Siffin. Why? Why would the Imam need to stipulate this? Think about this person's character. What the Imam is stipulating that no, the people that fought against you in the army of my father, those people, you will forgive them. It tells you that this man, he held grudges. Imam Hasan alayhi salam, he stipulated that because he knew Muawiyah would punish everyone that rose against him. 4th, and one of the most important stipulations is that Imam Hasan alayhi salam refused to call him Amir al-Mu'mineen. It was through this stipulation that he stripped him of the garbs, of the libas, of the clothes of Imamate in Khilafat. And it proved that Muawiyah usurped the great office of Imamate in Khilafat. 5th, the Imam, he stipulated that witnesses were not to be brought before Muawiyah. Witnesses aren't to be brought before Muawiyah. Why is that important? Because all of the jurists of both the Shia and Sunni schools of thought unanimously agree that witnesses are to be brought in front of the legal judge as part of his duty to mete out justice. If bearing witness was incorrect in the presence of Muawiyah, then that would mean that he is not a just ruler. Rather, he was a tyrannical ruler, and the judgment of the tyrannical rulers was invalid. And their conduct was not accepted in the viewpoint of Islamic law. Important point that witnesses were not to be brought in front of Muawiyah. The 6th point, Muawiyah should stop cursing Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is a stipulation that Imam Hasan alayhi salam put. And Imam Hasan alayhi salam knew Muawiyah wouldn't stop this. And through this, he wanted to show the people that Muawiyah did not care about the Prophet's closest companions. Muawiyah did not care about the family of the Prophet. For so long, the people of Muawiyah, they're cursing Amir al-Mu'mineen from the minbars. Number 7, a general security for his family and his Shias. General security for his family and his Shias. And through this, the Imam, he wanted to protect his followers and to keep their morale up. And at the same time, he wanted to show what kind of an oath breaker Muawiyah is. Number 8, Imam Hasan alayhi salam, he stipulated that the land tax of Dar Abjad, which was a wide range of land in Persia, was to be given to him and for him to spend on his followers. Number 9, Imam, he stipulated that Muawiyah should not oppress Ahl al-Bayt. Each and every single one of these stipulations brought Muawiyah down lower. Yet Muawiyah did not realize that. He was too clever for his own good. Some people might ask, why didn't he get martyred like his brother Imam Hussein alayhi salam? The truth is that if Imam Hasan alayhi salam had sacrificed his life, then his life would not have that same meaning. That is why, because the cunning and the deception of Muawiyah would have said, I wanted to make peace with Imam Hasan alayhi salam, but he wanted to kill me. What was Muawiyah going to do? He was going to turn it around on Imam Hasan. I wanted to make peace with him, but no, he wanted to go to war with me. I called to peace, but he called to war. And what would the sheep of that time, what would they have said? They would have said, yeah, that's absolutely true. You did call to peace. You wanted to make a treaty with him, but he refused. He came to war. That is the reason that Imam Hasan alayhi salam made that peace agreement with Muawiyah. Because Imam, what he needed to do, what his duty was at that time, was to show the people the true character of Muawiyah. That is how the Imam needed to protect the religion. Show the people that there are these types of people within the religion. Do not follow these types of people. As soon as the treaty was agreed upon, as soon as the treaty was signed, Muawiyah and Imam Hasan alayhi salam, they both deliver sermons. As soon as Muawiyah goes up, he tells the people of Kufa that he didn't care about Uthman's murder. He only wanted Khilafat and to rule over them. And that the treaty with Imam Hasan, which he had agreed upon a couple of hours ago, was under his feet. No longer valid. He would take the ring out from his fingers and he would say, this is how this treaty is. I can do what I want with it, basically. And this was exactly what Imam Hasan alayhi salam wanted to show the people. Throughout Muawiyah's reign, he broke each and every single one of those conditions. He did not fulfill any of them for Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Rather, he put all of those conditions under his feet just as he had announced. Through this act, he showed his pre-Islamic beliefs. He went further in committing sins. And he showed the people that he was void of noble characteristics. And the historians, when you look at historical books and you read historical books, you can see how much bloodshed Muawiyah had raised in the Islamic lands. How much fear, how much terror he had put into the hearts of the Muslims. That was when he commanded his governors to punish anyone that opposed him, anyone that opposed Banu Umayyah, anyone that opposed his government openly. And he told them to punish them severely, to deprive them of all their natural rights, and do whatever it was necessary to get them to shut up. The most dangerous thing that Muawiyah did, which Imam Hasan already knew that he would do, was he empowered his son Yazid to become the ruler after him over the Muslims. The sacrifice of Imam Hasan alayhi salam, brothers and sisters, was no less than the sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It was Sayyid Sharafuddin who had said it best when he said that the peacekeeping of Imam Hasan was among the great sources of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's revolt. The day of Karbala was an echo to the day of Mada'in. Sayyid Sharafuddin. The peacekeeping of Imam Hasan was among the greatest sources of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's revolt. If Imam Hussein alayhi salam was in the shoes of Imam Hasan alayhi salam, he would have done the exact same thing. And if Imam Hasan alayhi salam was in the shoes of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he would have done the exact same thing that Imam Hussein alayhi salam did. But look at how Imam Hasan alayhi salam tried to govern. The way that his father governed, that is the same sunnah that Imam Hasan alayhi salam tried to follow. And what was Muawiyah trying to do? He wanted to break that. He wanted to break that. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, Thursday, inshallah, we'll have our lecture. And then from Friday night, inshallah, will be the night when we commemorate the shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And on those nights, inshallah, we'll look at Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and his life. But the lecture for tonight, brothers and sisters, please recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of tonight's lecture, and the sponsor of tonight's lecture. And the sponsor of tonight's lecture is Brother Farhan Ali Mirza. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for his marhumin, especially for Jangish Ali Khan, Ibn Rashid ad-Din Haidar, Dildar Jahan, Nadri Binte, Nasir Ali Mirza, Hamza Hussain, Nader Nisa Begum, Mirza Jafar Ali, and Abida Begum, and Mirza Ahmad Ali Beg, and Shamim Fatima, Gani Zainab bint Zawar Ali. Please recite Surah Fatiha for all of these marhumin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, I will see you all again on Thursday with another lecture from our series of cleansing the soul. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.